If you're a parent and you've finally cracked that $20,000, $30,000, maybe even $50,000 in savings, first of all, congratulations. Not many are able to do that. It's a huge milestone, but here's the question I want to answer in this video. What do I do next with the money that I'm currently saving? Because once you finally built some financial stability, the game completely changes. You don't want any more money just kind of sitting around in your savings account, right? You want to start building your retirement. You want to start putting money towards your kids' future education. And after my wife and I paid off $43,000 worth of debt in 13 months and used that momentum to build up a net worth of over $800,000, here's the biggest lesson that I've learned. Building wealth gets a lot easier when you stop asking where you can put your money, and it's this decision fatigue, right? And you start giving every dollar an order of operations. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 8-step process that I call the waterfall method. And it's going to take your money from where it currently is, a nice pile of savings, through an exact order of what you should do next with your money to make it the most optimized for you and your family. And at the very end, I'm gonna show you approximately how much you'd need to put aside from each paycheck to completely max out these waterfall method opportunities. And I think the number might actually surprise you. Guys, real quick, I've opened up some spots in my Wealthy Parent program for busy families looking to get more clarity in their finances, find extra money each month without making more, so that they're able to put more of their hardworking money towards their financial goals and just feel like they're winning with their money. If that sounds interesting, any of that, there's a link below this video to book a call directly with me, and we could start your path to becoming a wealthy parent. I'll see you there. So bucket number 1 here is emergency reserve. Now, this might not specifically apply to you watching this video, because if you clicked on it, you probably have that $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in savings. But really quickly, just in case, we need a refresher here or someone's watching this that doesn't, this is very personal to me. Having an emergency fund was one of the reasons that my wife and I were able to be so aggressive paying off our debt. At the time, it was just $1,500 for us. So we did not have 3 to 6 months of our expenses. We did not have like all these crazy things that people say online, whatever. We found a number that we felt comfortable for us, that was able to kind of push forward. And we're like, okay, this is our backstop. If anything happens, we have this money. And we pushed everything we had, every single dollar, towards paying off the debt. That's how we were able to pay off $43,000 in 13 months. Now, did emergencies come up in this process? Yes, absolutely. There was a $500 thing. There was an $1,100 thing. My wife needed a new sensor in her car or something like that. Why are they so freaking expensive? I don't know. So instead of using that emergency reserve, we actually just paid less towards the debt in those months, because we just wanted to keep the emergency reserve. But the idea of that $1,500 in the back of our mind was critical to be able to do this. Without an emergency reserve, it's just very easy to go into these seesaw months, where I call them, where it's like you have a couple great months and then you're kind of back to square one again because an emergency came up. We didn't have the plan for it. So this, in an ideal world, what you want to do is just start with something. What is the number, if you look back at the last, say, year, what is the number that would cover the majority, vast majority of expenses that came up? So I'm not talking about like a new roof, okay? Let's kind of exclude the massive ones, things like that, because that could be like $15,000, $10,000. I'm talking like car sensors, tire, something that happened with your house. Like the other day, our garage door broke. Like that was an unexpected expense. These emergency funds, reserves, whatever you want to call them, they're not going to make you rich, but they are going to help you from staying stuck and getting poorer. Is that a word? Poorer? So before we start, figuring out how do we grow our money, we first have to build the foundation. Bucket number 2, high interest debt. So what I'm talking about here is basically anything over, say, a 7% interest rate. So most of the time it's going to be, say, a credit card. If you have the consumer debt, 20%, 25%, it's really hard to justify putting money towards anything else. Because if we just look at the interest rate math, if we're, we have a 25% credit card and we're getting, say, an 8% return on a just generic investment, the math ain't mathing on that if you're just like kind of letting that high interest debt go by the wayside and you're putting money towards invest. You're losing, say, 12% of interest. And so what I really want you to do, and this is very important, I'm going to go full screen here. I want you to pause all money growth things to pay this off. And some of you might be saying like, oh, but I have to invest for my future. I feel behind. Yes, but you having all that debt is the thing that's keeping you stuck. I really like to put our hardworking money towards our future selves, not other people. So how do we get rid of this as soon as possible? Yes, so I mean turning off literally everything. The 401k, turning that off for as long as you need to. No Roth IRA, no brokerage account, no anything. Just pause it. All the cash flow needs to be going to this. It needs to be like a hustle, a grind. This is the thing that's keeping you stuck. We got to get out of it. So if we go back into our little picture here, our little drawing. And by the way, drop a like on this video if you just love my buckets and my drawing here, if you think it's helpful. Where the math gets interesting is around that 6, 7, 8% range. And this is at the end of the day, it's just kind of a risk question for you. So it's like, and what are the opportunity costs of paying off the debt versus not investing? So there is a lot of math involved here, but really the main focus is after you have the emergency reserve, throw money towards the high interest debt. That's what my wife and I did. That's how we're able to pay off $43,000 of debt in 13 months. Bucket number 3 here is if you are in a position where you're employed and your employer has some sort of 401k, take advantage of the 401k match. I've heard a lot of examples from people. Sometimes they're terrible matches, like 1%. Sometimes they're pretty good, up to like 6%. That's insane. Take the match. It's literally free money. It's literally free money. And that's why again, the order here, debt, 401k match. I wouldn't put money towards this until we figure this out. Because again, the interest rate math, there's a big discussion like online. People disagree with this. This is what worked for me. So this is what I like to share to people inside my Wealthy Parent program. So yeah, this is just one of those things that you don't want to leave on the table. Now, the reason why I think the 401k match is good and not going above is because of the buckets that are a little further. There are better options in terms of growing your money and better tax advantaged buckets. But we can get into that in a little bit. But just to be clear, as we're going through this is something like super broad and general, and I don't know your specific situation. So if you just think you're going to watch a YouTube video and it's going to perfectly align with your exact situation, you're crazy. You're crazy. This is just a general broad scope. Sometimes this is exactly what I would walk through a family when I'm working with them. Sometimes they want something completely different. It just depends on every family situation. There's a specific roadmap that every family needs to follow, and it's custom to you. So just to be very clear, this is not a one-size-fits-all sort of a thing. The next bucket here, Roth IRA. So only take the 401k match, and then the Roth IRA is next. And really, I prefer the Roth IRA. There's traditional IRA, but basically it's just a tax thing. So it's like you either pay taxes now and you withdraw tax-free later. That's the Roth. Or there's no taxes now and there's taxes later. That's the traditional IRA. I like the Roth IRA because in theory, taxes will just continue to go up. Of course, it's not something we can control, so who cares? Let's get over it. So this one's better. I'd rather pay the tax now and withdraw it tax-free later on. And the one thing I like about the Roth IRA is you generally have a broader range of investments that you might not have inside your 401k. A lot of times the 401k are just these like target funds, these target retirement funds. Sometimes you don't even have options to be super specific. Sometimes you do. And this is kind of a more advanced tactic, going under the hood of your 401k. But really the Roth IRA allows a little more freedom. So we're really starting to build the wealth engine here. And this in 2026, this caps out at $7,500 if you're under 50 years old. So it's about $288 every 2 weeks. So if you get paid 26 times a year, it's only $288 a paycheck if you think about it. All right, now this one's specifically for parents. 529 education savings. This is always the tricky one of like, where do we put our kids' stuff? Like, how do we think about our investment portfolio, our retirement versus what we need to do for our kids? It's a big question that I get all the time. How do we prioritize it? And the kind of analogy that I like to give is, if you've ever been on a plane, you know, the flight attendants go through the thing and it's like, hey, if there's like ever an emergency, the mask is going to come down. Make sure to put on your mask first before you put on the mask of the loved ones around you, right? And I never really thought about this until we had kids. And then when I had kids, we went on a flight somewhere and I heard it and it really resonated. I was like, holy crap, I have to ignore my kids for, a hot second and just put it on for me. And it's really uncomfortable as a parent because it's like you always want to just like, make sure your kids are okay. And just like, it's just like this parenting instinct, right? But really at the end of the day, if we're on a plane and I pass out, I definitely can't help my kids, right? So it's like I have to be in a good position. I have to figure out my shit before I can help them with theirs. And that's why if we go back to this thing here, we are putting a little bit towards our retirement, and then we're putting some towards the kiddos. So right now, between my two kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, we have a combined like $30,000 already put aside towards the education savings account. And the reason why this is so great, it's used for qualified education expenses, including college or other certain educational paths like trade schools, things like that. And this is where I want to make the distinction. I want to just reiterate this. You don't need to sacrifice your retirement to completely fund your kids' education. It's going to be very different for every family in terms of how much you're considering to contribute. But there are, we'll call them college calculators, and you can kind of see like, okay, if I put this amount in and I'm expecting this kind of a return, this is the thing that I, am expecting to get the amount in the account. You can pick like how much. You could pick private, public schools. I think Vanguard has one of these, but you can just kind of play around with it and you could say like, okay, I want to contribute 60% to a in-state school or something like that. And you could just sort of think like what is happening, because a lot of times we don't have a plan in the future. We're just thinking about like, I'll just, I don't know, I'll do this next month or I'll put $100, but you don't actually know what that amount is going to be or look like at the end. So our kids are on track to have a lot of money. Somehow my 5-year-old's account is outperforming my 2-year-old's account by like a lot. And I don't mean he's older, so it's like there's more money in there, but I meant like I think they're in the same thing. It's very strange. Anyway, she'll be fine. She has 16 years to have that account grow. But I want your financial foundation to be strong enough so that, again, we can put the air mask on our kids. The next bucket here, we want to go back to the 401k max. So for 2026, the standard employee contribution limit in the just outline example that we're doing is $24,500. Now that's a lot of money and you don't have to get there overnight, but I do want you to have a clear target in mind of like, okay, here's the next order of operations, right? And because that money can come directly out of your paycheck, you're essentially building wealth before you had a chance to, spend the money. So you're paying yourself first, you're prioritizing that first. And I don't want you to like wake up and like, what's the next thing I should invest in? That's the power of this waterfall method. It's literally just going to map out step by step by step what you should be putting your money towards. And I do want to take a little break here from the waterfall method to outline something else in terms of like, okay, you're probably thinking like, how much is this actually all going to cost here? And let's say you make a $100,000 a year salary. A good rule of thumb is 15% invested or putting money towards the goals that we have, right? And you'll notice that it's of the 100K, so not of your paycheck, but it's of the 100K, right? So that is obviously going to equal $15,000. And if we look at the waterfall method that we talked about, so this is not including like putting money towards savings. We're assuming that we have the emergency reserve. This is not including putting money towards the high interest debt. We're assuming that's already gone. Okay, and so this won't even include other debts, like maybe you have a car loan or a student loan that's under that like 6-7% range. We're not even talking about that. So the 401k, let's talk about that first. 401k match. Let's assume you have a 3% employer match. So you're putting 3% of the 100K salary, right? So that's going to be $3,000. So you can already see like, okay, you can already start to see like where your money is going to start going with this. And then if we go to the Roth IRA, that is going to just be $7,500 because that is the current max in 2026. It will change every year, so depending on when you're watching this video. So now you can see we already have $10,500 spent. And then if we simply go back to our waterfall method, then the education savings, so we'll call it the 529, right? And this is going to be completely dependent on you. I just want to walk you through that here. So maybe just to start, you want to do, I don't know, $200 a month. And that is going to equal 12 times 200, $2,400. So now if I do the quick math here, we have at 10.5, 12.5, 12.9, and now we have $2,100 left in this bucket here. So maybe what you can do there is continue the 401k, right? And you can kind of just map this out of like, hey, what's the money actually doing, right? And then if we really extrapolate this out, like $15,000, let me open a compounding interest calculator. A ton of free ones on the internet, which is great. So let's assume that you start at nothing. I have to put $1 in here just to show. Estimated rate of return, we're going to do something conservative of 8%. And your monthly contribution amount, if we look at $15,000 divided by 12, $1,250. If we just continue to do that over the next 20 years, it's $700,000. Over the next 25, we're a millionaire, right? And if we just do these simple tasks, this is assuming that you don't increase your salary. This is assuming that you just stick to the plan. Pretty hard to fail. It's pretty hard to fail when you just stick to the plan long enough. Now, obviously in those 20 years, like, I don't know, you would probably stop needing the 529 plan most likely, right? And you maybe, I don't know, maybe you are in a different spot. You don't have the 401k, but anyway, it's like just the idea of putting money towards it. So let's go to the next one here. I'm just going to move this down so we don't get distracted, because bucket 7 is the HSA. If you qualify, you definitely need some sort of health insurance plan if you're eligible, right? But this is one of the most underrated investing vehicles out there. And to be honest, I need to get into this more. My wife and I had one a while ago, but this is more than just like covering for your, I don't know, your co-pays or your $8 prescription that you're picking up at Walgreens or stuff like that. Like, this is like something that is so powerful because it's literally a triple tax advantage. You can potentially, it's tax-free putting money in, it's tax-free growth, and it's tax-free on withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. And here's why I like this for parents, because healthcare is not going to be something that just goes away, right? This is something that you could use for yourself, for your kids, as long as like everyone's under the family plan, right, of your health insurance. And you can think about it just like as another long-term financial tool. So for 2026, for example, the figures are $4,400 for like a self-care by yourself, $8,750 are the total for family, and then there's a catch up, right? But if you're eligible, this bucket is worth paying attention to and not ignoring. But the reason why it's after all these other things is because these should be the priority for sure. So we're gonna go down here to our list, because at the end, remember, I wanna share how much it's going to be a paycheck. Ooh, how much is it going to be? So $8,750 for family, because I'm assuming if you're watching this, you are a parent. And if you're not, it's the $4,400, but that's fine too. And then the final bucket, the final boss. What is it? Is it crypto? No. It's just a general brokerage account. And I love this so much because it's so broad and general and you have so many options. And this is where your money just becomes a lot more flexible. There's no retirement account age restrictions. There's no like other challenges that really get in the way besides, you know, the taxes and capital gains rules, of course. But this could be really useful for putting money aside for early retirement. My wife and I are currently using our brokerage account for an unknown opportunity that will come up. We have no idea. But when we have extra money, kind of just laying around at the end of every month, we put it in this because we're following this to a T. Except for this, we have to do better with this. But we're putting money towards something because in the past, we've been rewarded for just putting money aside, watching it grow. And then that's how we're able to go from, say, a starter home to the house that we're in. Now we're able to completely afford that just based on the fact of like putting money aside and just watching it grow and having everything build up that way. You're probably wondering like, wow, this sounds great. And there's a lot of numbers flying around here. So how much is this actually going to like, what's the investment? What's the buy-in every single year or paycheck, right? And this is where it really gets interesting. So if we start adding up all of these things here, obviously like we're going to be starting to outpace the 15%. So of course, this is kind of like a bare minimum. This is like what people really should be doing. I hate to use the word should, but if you feel uncomfortable with 15%, it's like, okay, if you're doing like 0, how do we get to 5% of our income? How do we get to 10? How do we keep increasing it? And maybe even every month, you can kind of challenge yourself to do a little more. How can we do 1% more every month? Because 1% in a year of a 100K salary is $1,000. So divided by 12 is what? $80. It doesn't take that much to win these days in personal finances. So if we look at how much this is going to cost us, right? It's like, wow, how much we buy? How much are you making us put in here, Chris? Well, if we look at the numbers, so it's 24,500 for the 401k. Obviously, if you're older than 50, the catch-up periods, blah, 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 there's other factors into that. Make sure you just kind of understand where you stand specifically. But 24,500, we have $7,500 into the Roth. We have 8750 if you have the health savings account. That alone is $40,750. And if you get paid 26 times a year, it's $1,567 a paycheck, basically. From your gross income, remember, this is not like after. This is considered like part of your salary. And this does, of course, does not even include the 529, right? Or the brokerage. So what I want you to do is not get overwhelmed with, oh my God, I'm behind. What I want you to do is just simply follow the waterfall method. Simply follow it. So if you're watching this video, you probably have a nice emergency reserve. If not, work on that. Start with something. What is the tangible thing that you can hold in your account that you would feel comfortable, that would cover most things that would pop up for you? Get rid of this credit card debt, get rid of it. And not only get rid of it, but there's a behavior thing here that we need to change. We need to fix this because we need to create a system so that we don't need to jump into this every time. Take the 401k match. A lot of times, people are just here, and that's fine, right? We have the emergency savings. We've gotten rid of some of the high debt. We're matching our 401k, and then that's kind of where it feels like people are stuck. One, they don't know what to do next. Two, they feel like they don't have enough cash flow. So what I would consider is just going through your finances. What are your goals that you want to accomplish with your money? What are the ins and outs? And then how do we move some of the outs, some of the money that you're spending towards maybe fulfilling your Roth IRA every single year, putting money towards your kids' future education, maxing out the 401k, starting an HSA to get that triple tax advantage, and then just destroying a brokerage account, putting the rest of the money towards the brokerage account. And it's really not that hard to win if you have $100,000 a year and say household income. There's families that I work with that have been over $200,000 plus, right? And it's like, once you just realize where your money's going and then where you'd like it to go, it's a really easy way, because $1,500 is basically $3,000 a month. Maybe you think that's kind of high. So just start somewhere. Try. How do you get to 15%? How do you challenge yourself right now to get to 15%? And I know as a parent, life gets in the way. Right now, our daycare expense is like $2,700 a month, $2,700 a month. That's a lot. That eats up a big portion of our pay. But in a couple weeks, our kid is our oldest son is starting kindergarten. So we're getting basically half that money back. And we are like, holy crap. And we are just going to go bombs away, brokerage, baby. Bombs away. And it's going to be really fun. We're working on paying off our mortgage right now as quickly as possible. And again, this is to be used. This is not financial advice for you specifically. This is just a broad thing. Everyone that I work with inside of my Wealthy Parent program has a different outcome, a different goals. Maybe, I've helped people that don't have kids too. Like, I can help people without kids and they just eliminate this. There's no need for this. And so it's really just mapping out what you want to do, what your goals are. Make sure to check out that link below to book a call with me. You're going to talk specifically with me. It's going to be a quick, friendly chat just to kind of see where you're at, where you want to go. And we're going to unlock the one thing keeping you stuck. And maybe, we'll see if you're a fit for the Wealthy Parent program. We could talk about that a little more. But if not, I've got another YouTube video right here, and I'll see you there.